Welcome to this cozy corner of the internet, a place where you can rest, unwind, and drift gently into sleep. Oh night, I'll be guiding you through another slow, atmospheric, historical bedtime thriller. A story designed not to scare you awake, but to ease you into serenity, with just enough mystery to keep your mind softly floating until your eyelids grow heavy. So, if you're lying down or settling into a comfortable place, go ahead and take a deep, calm breath. And now, let's begin. The night draped itself softly over Whitby Bay, not as a threat, but like a velvet curtain, settling over the world in shades of quiet blue and gentle black. Out on the cliff, where the sea whispered its eternal lullaby against the rocks, stood the tall and steady lighthouse, its lantern rotating in a calm, patient rhythm, a pulse of golden light, every few soothing seconds. Inside, the keeper of that light, Elias Moorcroft, moved with the slow, practiced grace of someone who had lived many nights just like this. He filled his teacup, the steam rising in soft curls. The warmth of the cup seeped into his palms as he listened to the gentle hum of the lighthouse machinery. Each rotation of the lantern above him created a tender sweep of brightness across the walls, a steady heartbeat that had comforted him for nearly 20 years. The storm clouds outside were heavy but peaceful. No lightning, no thunder, just the slow symphony of the sea, the wind, and the soft creaking of old wooden beams. Elias loved nights like this, nights when the world seemed to breathe slowly with him. Nights when the light needed only gentle tending, and the ships far out on the invisible horizon sailed calmly through the dark. He lifted the teacup to his lips, and that was when he heard it. 3 slow, deliberate knocks at the door below. They echoed up the metal spiral staircase, each knock soft, but impossibly out of place in the quiet rhythm of the night. Elias paused, set the cup down, listened again. The wind sighed, the sea murmured, but no other sound followed. Until, knock, a very gentle one this time. Elias took his lantern and descended the spiral steps, each footfall landing softly on cold iron. He reached the bottom, unlatched the door, and pulled it open. A rush of cool, mist-damp air slipped inside, carrying with it the scent of the waves and the soft patter of distant rain. At first, he thought the world outside was empty, just fog and night. But then he saw her, a woman, standing silently at the threshold. Her cloak was soaked, her hair clung to her cheeks, and her eyes held a tiredness that suggested she had walked far through the rain and darkness. "Good evening," she said softly. Her voice was gentle, almost fragile. "I'm sorry to disturb you at such an hour." Elias stepped back immediately, his instinct to help stronger than his rising curiosity. "Come inside," he murmured. "You're freezing." She stepped over the threshold, water dripping from her cloak onto the stone floor. "My name is Clara Whitthorne," she said quietly. "My carriage overturned, somewhere along the northern road. I saw the lighthouse through the mist and hoped someone might be here." "You're safe now," Elias reassured her. "Let's get you warm." He led her up the stairs, her footsteps light and hesitant as though she wasn't entirely sure she should be there. But the lighthouse welcomed her with its soft glow and the gentle warmth of the furnace. Elias gave her a blanket and poured a second cup of tea. Clara held it with both hands, letting the heat seep slowly into her fingers. For a long, peaceful moment, neither of them spoke. The lighthouse lantern rotated above, casting calm, rhythmic waves of light over the room. The fire crackled softly, the perfect lullaby for a weary traveler. Finally, Elias spoke. "You were lucky to find the place in such heavy fog." Clara nodded slowly. "Yes, the fog was strange tonight," she whispered. "It didn't feel natural." Elias smiled softly. "Fog rarely does on this coast." But Clara didn't smile back. Her eyes drifted to the window, where the mist pressed gently like a sleeping cat against the glass. After a long exhale, she whispered, "Do you believe in old stories, Mr. Moorcroft?" Elias raised an eyebrow. "I suppose that depends on the story." Clara set her tea down and reached into her damp cloak. From within its folds, she withdrew a small leather book, ancient, weather-beaten, tied with a thin piece of rope. The cover was scarred, the edges frayed. It looked like a book that had been carried through storms long before tonight. "This," she said softly, "is the Whitthorne manuscript." Elias felt a soft chill crawl across his skin. He'd heard the name, everyone along the coast had. A journal from the late 1700s. Sailors, shipwrecks, strange lights in the fog, whispers of curses, and warnings never fully understood. "I've been studying it for years," Clara continued. "I'm a historian, or I was, before this consumed me." Her voice softened even more, barely above a whisper. The manuscript describes a presence along this coastline. She ran her fingers gently along the book's frayed edge, a presence that lures ships not to safety, but toward the rocks. Elias breathed slowly, trying to keep the calm atmosphere from slipping into unease. "You mean wreckers," he said. "Old bandits who lit false beacons." Clara shook her head, very softly. "No," the writer described something else. Outside, the fog seemed to thicken. Almost listening, Clara continued, "He wrote about a second light, a pale, wandering glow that drifted through the mist like a lantern held by an unseen hand." A hush settled over the room. He believed it was alive. Elias glanced toward the window. The fog swirled gently, quietly, like breath. "And the last entry," Clara whispered, "mentions this lighthouse. Or, the older beacon that once stood here before it vanished." Elias frowned lightly. "The old wooden tower? It fell in a storm." Clara held his gaze, calm, steady. "That's not what the journal says." And then, very softly, the lighthouse lantern flickered. Only for a moment, a tiny dimming, but enough. Elias set his cup aside, his body leaning forward just a little. "That's unusual," he murmured. "These storms aren't strong enough to disrupt the flame." Clara whispered. "It reacts to the presence." Another flicker, longer this time, like a slow blink. The fog outside pressed closer to the window panes. Clara's fingers tightened around the manuscript. "Elias, he wrote that the presence tests the keeper first." A soft warning, a reminder. Elias rose, trying to remain calm. "You're tired," he said gently. "You've walked through the storm. Stories become shadows when we're cold and frightened." But Clara didn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on something outside the window. Slowly, Elias turned to follow her gaze. A shimmer, a glow, a faint light, not from the lighthouse, moving through the fog far below. Drifting, slowly, like a lantern being carried across the cliff edge, except there was no one there. Elias stepped closer to the glass. His breath fogged the window. "That's not possible," Clara whispered. "It's the same light the sailor described." The lantern above them flickered again, harder now, struggling. Elias felt the air grow heavier, as if the fog itself was leaning into the lighthouse. "Stay here," he murmured. He descended the stairs quietly, the metal steps cold beneath his hands. At the bottom, he unlocked the door, opened it slowly, and stepped into the fog. The world outside was muted, soft, almost dreamlike. Only the hum of the sea remained. He looked down. Fresh footprints led toward the lighthouse, but there were none leading away. He returned inside, closed the door firmly, and climbed back up. Clara met him with wide, quiet eyes. "You saw them," she whispered. "The footprints." Elias nodded. "Yes, but nothing else." Clara exhaled shakily. "That's how it begins." Before Elias could speak, the lantern above them stuttered, a long, low dimming that washed the room in shadow for several breaths. Then another. The drifting light outside shone brighter now, closer, as if rising up the cliff. Clara stepped backward. "It wants to replace your lantern," she whispered. "It always begins by extinguishing the real one." Elias grabbed the wheel of the mechanism and forced it to turn. The gears groaned. The lantern flickered dangerously, but stayed lit. Outside, the pale glow pressed against the fog, taking on a faint shape, a height, a posture. Just for a moment. Then, the lighthouse lantern flared, bright and fierce. The fog recoiled with a soft hiss, like breath drawn away. The drifting glow vanished, swallowed by the night. The lantern steadied, the fog retreated, silence returned. Elias sagged into a chair, breathing deeply. Clara held the manuscript to her chest, relief and lingering fear mixing in her tired eyes. "It knows now," she murmured. "It knows the lantern still stands, and that you stand with it." Elias nodded slowly, the calm of the room settling over him once more. Then, he whispered, "As long as I'm here, the light will never go out." And the lighthouse, steady, patient, continued its gentle rotation over Whitby Bay, guiding sailors, guarding the night, and holding the darkness at the edge of the world. Thank you for joining me tonight for this slow, gentle, historical thriller. If you enjoyed this story, and if it helped you relax, I'd love for you to join me next time for another calm journey into the past. For now, rest well, sleep deeply, and may your dreams be peaceful. Good night.